Welcome to the Four Visions Market Podcast, a space built on the principles of integrity and reciprocity. Together, we will engage in thought-provoking conversations about plant medicines, why these plants are coming out of the rainforests, jungles, and mountains after thousands of years, and what it means to be in right relationship with the ancestral wisdom cultures and guardians of these traditions. I'm your host, Mariah, founder and director of Four Visions Market. This podcast is the natural evolution in our commitment to providing you, our tribe, with incredible resources to support you on your healing journey through plant medicines. Welcome home. Hola familia! Welcome back to the Four Visions podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Wow, this season has been amazing. We've been blessed to have some really incredible guests, and just really want to give a shout out to our incredible team, Julie, our videographer. Thank you so much for being behind the camera, and all of the incredible people who have brought this show to life and really given it so much nourishment over the last few months as we've embarked on season 2. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by an incredible woman and musician, mother, and pathwalker of the spiritual path. You may be familiar with her through her beautiful music. Welcome, Simrit. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yay. Oh, my goodness. It's such a beautiful blessing to be connected in this way and to get to collaborate and weave. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this conversation today.
Thank you. Me too. I'm happy to be here. And it's nice to be with all of you. Hola, familia. Soy Simrit.
Yeah. Wow. Well, your music is so potent and reaches the hearts and minds of people all over the world. So I know most of our listeners are probably familiar with your offerings and the path that you're walking. And for those who maybe aren't so familiar with you as a person, maybe you can introduce a little bit about the work that you're doing in the world and what you're here for.
My name is Simrit, for those of you that don't know me, and I feel so happy to be here with Mariah and Julie and the whole team, Four Visions. And I am an artist at heart, but mainly I'm a humanitarian at heart. And the way that I share that with the world is through my music, through artistry of sound, whether that's voice or my band, whether that's, I have some classes out there. I teach. I'm currently not teaching in this moment, but I do that. And I'm a mother. I'm an activist. I am a human being that loves nature and live music, and I'm a simple human being. And I really want to see all human beings have equal rights and safety and thriving. So, yeah, I play music all around the world. I've been very, very fortunate in my career to have that opportunity to play all around the world, to meet people from all over. And what I have gathered over a decade of time, more than a decade of time of my travels, spanning from, we've been to a lot of places. I've traveled to a lot of places. Is that everybody is essentially the same. We all want the same things. We all have the same needs and desires. And mostly everybody is good. Mostly everybody is good. And that's what I've learned. And so to be able to share that on the platform and say, hey, we all have the same needs and wants and desires in life and the same human rights. I think that's mainly my goal and my mission in life.
Amen. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And what a beautiful starting point to this conversation today.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you mentioned this element of sameness, because in today's world, as we know, we are so polarized and attached to the separation, and just, seeing through the lens of the other is so pervasive in all areas of our society. And For that to really be one of the first things that comes out of your mouth in this conversation, to me, it really feels like, okay, that's the tone of not just this conversation, but who you are too and what you bring. And that's the intention behind your work, and how beautiful, because we need more of that. We need more unifiers in the world. And for some reason, it does seem to be the musicians that like bring that energy so often, right? I think it's something with the universal language of music that, you know, unites us and puts aside our differences and really just allows us to feel and not think so much, you know, and come into that place of oneness. So this essence of being a humanitarian and being a social activist, where did this come from? Where did this start within you? And can you tell us a little bit about this fire that has been burning within your heart to, you know, really be that voice for truth and justice?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. What a beautiful question. I love answering questions like this. First of all, I was born in Athens, Greece. My lineage is half Greek and half Arab. And my Arab lineage comes from North Africa, Egypt, mainly in North Africa. And I have Levantine roots. So that's all of this Middle East area that we're hearing a lot about today. Palestine, Jordan, Syria, Yemen, and there's more and more places in that area. And when I was born of a Greek mother who was a singer, and my matrilineage is singers. My birth mother through my great-grandmother are all singers that I know of at this point. And when I was born to a teenage mother who could not have me because her family wouldn't allow her to keep me. So I was born an orphan. And I was orphaned for the first year of my life, a year to year and a half of my life, and was living in and out of orphanages and foster homes. And then I was adopted by I was very, very fortunate to be adopted by a beautiful Greek family from the United States into South Carolina, out of all the places. And my brother, and the reason I'm sharing this story with you is because my brother is the one that ignited the flame of activism and using my voice to speak for humanity. My brother was also adopted, and he's 3 years older than me, but he has special needs. And so my parents adopted him at 3 months old, and my parents are saints. They're saintly people. They adopted my brother with special needs, and then they adopted me 3 years later. And my brother and I were both very fortunate to be raised in our culture. At least for me, even though I'm half Arab, I was not raised fully in that culture. I was raised mostly in a very thick Greek culture. And we were raised with music, language, food, dancing, all of these things that were, to me, are extremely important for people everywhere in the world. And every single person on this planet comes from some culture. We are all from a beautiful lineage, everybody. So for me, that felt very important and gave me a sense of identity when I was younger. Because I feel, and I'm sure you can understand, don't you know, as we get older, our sense of identity expands. It's not this just acute little, I'm Greek, I'm Arabic, I'm from Greece in the Middle East, and I'm from, it expands beyond that. And because of the nature of the way kids are, they would make fun of my brother all the time, whether it was in elementary school. We always were in the same schools. He was in special education classes. And in the church, unfortunately, or fortunately, because it helped me kind of hone my voice in, out of all the places you would think that people would be more kind, the kids in the church were some of the meanest kids to my brother. Out of all the kids. I mean, they were worse than some of the kids in public school. They were making fun of my brother. They were hitting my brother. They were playing jokes on my brother. And I could not stand it anymore. So by the time I was in probably fourth grade or fifth grade, and definitely through middle school and through high school, I would be talking with people to their faces, and sometimes people's parents, and saying, this is not okay. Your son is making fun of my brother and playing these jokes on him in front of everyone, and they're all laughing at him. And you need to do something about this. That's your son. That's on you. That's not my responsibility to take care of that. You know, even though I would talk with those kids, and that fire, that flame started even when I was a kid.
Wow.
Protecting my brother, physically protecting him sometimes, and emotionally and verbally standing up for him and being there for him. And I believe that that really started the kind of stoked the flame of wanting to stand up for people. And then as I grew older and started learning more about how people were treated around the world in the country in which the occupied land in which I live on, and learning the story of the First Nations people here first in the United States, as I was a teenager, that really opened my eyes.
Yeah.
And knowing that I was taught lies growing up, that again stoked more of that flame. And then learning also just about how my people, as I got older, some of my people, not all of them, but one half of my people were known as terrorists, and why that came to be, and how that story was actually backwards, very backwards. And so all of this just stoked that flame of, I don't know, I never considered myself an activist before, but someone that was very comfortable using my voice to share the truths of what I know at this point. And I don't know all of the truths. I don't know everything. I'm not an expert on any of it. But to share the truths of what's happening, even when it feels uncomfortable for me and other people. Yeah, so I hope that answered your question.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Yeah.
You and your brother. And
Yeah.
wow, you are a voice for the voiceless, and really, you know, that element of lifting up and empowering the voices that are quieter, that are not as easily heard or seen in the world. It's so beautiful. I'm just seeing like the cultural inheritance of your legacy of music and what it means to have so many generations of singers, and then with giving a voice to and being willing to share your voice even when it's uncomfortable, and to talk about the things that are uncomfortable. Like, wow, that's beautiful courage right there.
Thank you.
And really, your ancestors are proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's a beautiful thing to be walking and to have that deep alignment, you know, with the justice that we're also seeking for our ancestors too.
Yes.
Right? And so like you in your power and you in your voice sharing and doing the work that you came here to do is also giving reclamation and resolution for them, right? And the ways in which they didn't give the full extent, or maybe they did, but the way the weaving of our ancestry is so beautiful, because we continue the stories of the ones before us, and we just pick the thread up and continue weaving.
Yes.
So I love these examples and beautiful, you know, reminders.
I want to share this, if it's okay, with this, because you're saying this, and we were talking about this earlier. Just the different people that I come from, have gone through many thousands of years of oppression, genocides, things that we don't talk about, that a lot of people don't know about both parts of my ancestry. But not only that, I feel that a lot of people on this planet have come from lineages that have come from oppression. And whether you're Irish, whether you're British, actually, whether you're Greek, whether you're First Nations here or anywhere else in the world, whether you are Arabic, whether you are of the Jewish religion, whether you are, there's people all over the world that we can talk about, that have gone through oppression. And my great-grandmother, so I was telling you about my lineage of singers, my birth mother, who I've met, and I've met my birth grandmother as well, my biological grandmother, but my biological great-grandmother I never got to meet. And my matrilineage of singers were all teenagers when they had each other, very young. And I was young when I had my son, but I broke that cycle. I wasn't a teenager. And that felt very good. But my great-grandmother was an underground singer in Greece during the Turkish occupation. And she was a revolutionary. And so I have that from that lineage as well in my blood, like keeping the culture and the music alive underground in order to keep it, the language, the songs, the dances, the music, everything, even the food. So that's also part of like that fire, like you were speaking of. It comes also from my ancestors. I carry that flame of my ancestors with me, and I acknowledge that, and I'm very, very proud of that.
That's so beautiful. I'm happy you shared that, and it really is that. It's carrying the torch forward and honoring them, right? And everything that our ancestors have gone through, being able to honor them through our time on this earth, being able to honor them through the work that we do and the way that we show up, and letting that be homage, like paying homage and paying reverence to their legacy in that way. So I feel that very strongly through you, and it's very beautiful. And it's true also, this element of, I just want to say, all people, not just like the ones you name, but all people have been either in that dynamic of the oppressor and the oppressed, right? That's part of the human experience, and it's part of the human story. And as we kind of get a little deeper into this conversation, especially with the activism piece and speaking for the voiceless, and also seeing, right? Being willing to see and look at the things that maybe aren't right in front of our eyes, in the sense of like in the physical reality, but they're right in front of our eyes if we open them and see what's really going on and take time to really educate ourselves. But this element of human rights, like from a spiritual lens, because we hear this term human rights all the time, right? But I kind of want to start there with like this element of shifting this perspective in our policies and in our governments, because we feel like we see human rights on like one side of the spectrum, and then we see like legislation and what actually happens in the war machines on the other side, and they're not coherent with one another. And so the human rights often get put to like the spiritual side, like, oh, this is spiritual, but it's not realistic. Like on the other side, the governments, for the needs of power or the sovereignty of their nations or blah, 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 blah. There's always reasons why the human rights can't be upheld, right? And so I want to get into that a little bit, of the ways in which these human rights don't need to stand on their own. They don't need to be on the sideline, but if we take them in and really embrace them as the lens in which we see the world, and we utilize that in the ways in which we vote, the ways in which we support different, pieces of social activism and legislation and changes that are taking place within our government, the choices that our governments are making. If we utilize that as the lens from which we take action, how it really can be brought together. And also this other element, just to clarify a little bit more, of how oftentimes on the spiritual path, people get really scared about looking at these very serious issues of human rights. And it's often easy to, look away or not look at the news. Of course, I totally understand that aspect of it, because the news these days is like, whew, you gotta smudge yourself before and after. You gotta put on all your spiritual armor just to go open the Times or wherever you're getting your news. But the point is that ultimately, there's this element of the spiritual community that is very prevalent these days, that basically says like, I want to be so spiritual that I don't want to look at all the horrible things that are happening.
It's a distraction, or it's choosing sides with whatever we're looking at, or whether it's politics or human beings, or it's like, no.
And I just want to stay in my oneness, right? And it's like, how do we bring the oneness to these very serious situations, educate ourselves, you know, and I'm not saying choosing a side necessarily, but educating yourself about what's going on in the dynamics and like how that is actually a part of the spiritual path. So I want to go into that a little bit. And I know I kind of went multiple places there with that question. So feel free to go multiple places wherever. Taking a quick break from today's conversation to share with you a short message. Let's talk about plant medicine integration. Integration work is the action taking and the grounding into the fibers of our beings, the ancestral and cosmic wisdom that the plants give us. It is the manifestation of every vision. When we do it well, it becomes the true ceremony, the ceremony of life. The 4 Visions Plant Medicine Integration Program was created to support you in learning how to cultivate the unique process of translating the healing and wisdom received from the plants into your daily life. Our personalized, self-paced learning platform was developed to suit each person's unique availability and commitment levels, with as much hands-on guidance and support or autonomy as you are needing and wanting. Our in-depth curriculum is comprised of a robust digital content series, live monthly workshops, private spiritual consultations, and community connection. Our faculty is made up of renowned spiritual teachers, indigenous wisdom keepers, and integration specialists, each with unique backgrounds and decades working with the plants. We created the curriculum we wish we had had years ago when beginning our plant medicine journeys. Some of the topics we cover throughout the program are immediate integration basics, cultivating your spiritual practice, building a plant allies toolkit, how to make spiritual payments, how to deepen your connection with plants, working with hape, sananga, and cacao as allies, the foundations of microdosing, the art of forgiveness and reconciliation, spiritual hygiene, and plant diets. If you feel called to cultivate your integration practice or are interested in nourishing your spiritual studies and deepening your relationship with plants through a one-of-a-kind transformational container, we welcome you to visit 4visionsintegration.com to learn more and sign up. And now back to today's show.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, or where I feel a strong pulse in my body when I hear you ask that question, is education. And I think that when we're talking about the spiritual community, we have to be very careful about what we deem as spiritual. I think spirituality in general, and the word spiritual has been misused in a sense. I believe that everything is spiritual. It depends on the state of the person experiencing everything. So the candle, this conversation, my hair, your clothes, your lineage, your food, your ancestry, your family, the way that you feel when you listen to music, no matter what music it is. It does not matter if you're listening to mantra music or rock and roll or psychedelic music or jazz or folk music. Everything has the capacity to be spiritual in our lives. And I think when we pivot from that place, then we see things a little differently and things start to open up for us. Perspectives begin to open up. The way we see other people begins to open up. The way that we can feel okay with, this doesn't feel right to me in my body and mind and soul and heart. That's a very spiritual experience. So when we speak about politics, like you were mentioning, everything is political. Everything is political, from the land to the food that we eat, to the transportation, to how we are allowed to govern our own bodies, to how indigenous communities are able to ideally and hopefully have their rights, which have been taken from them horribly. And And also, spirituality is how I feel about it is what you're doing, bringing to the light and bringing education to people that have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and their very rich traditions, and sharing their rich traditions and not appropriating them, and sharing their stories and helping them, because many of them have been hindered on purpose, as a part of an imperialist and colonialist agenda. And so what you're doing, I feel, is very political, very spiritual, very humanitarian. And when I say political, you know, a lot of us think that when we feel for other human beings on the planet, and when we respect other human beings, and that we want to share about those people and their stories and the realities of what's happening, what has happened to them, we could talk now. There's a lot of things currently happening in the world, or we could talk about that in the Middle East, in Africa, in Haiti, in Myanmar. We can go on and on about where these things are happening in Bangladesh. And there, and many, many more. Puerto Rico, so many places on this occupied land in the United States. When we're not able to acknowledge the reality of what has happened and what we're all a part of, because the thing for me is, where I don't feel the resonance is when people in these spiritual communities practicing yoga and practicing spiritual modalities act like they are not a part of this other stuff going on in the world, because it's a distraction and it keeps them down here and they're not able to elevate. It's like, we cannot elevate our consciousness until we get real with what's going on with ourselves and with the world and with each other, and how we're all a part of it. It doesn't make us horrible people that we're complicit in a lot of crimes that are happening around the world. It doesn't make us horrible people, but it's really good to be aware of these things. And sometimes that awareness feels ugly, it feels dirty, it feels disgusting, it doesn't feel good in our bodies. But it is imperative that we know what is going on with all of us, with our brothers and sisters, because if we say that we are all one, and we are truly all one, how are we going to say that and then disconnect ourselves and tap out of what's happening with humanity, with our brothers and sisters all over the world? Mm-hmm. And so I'm not here to say I have all the solutions and that I'm perfect and that I know everything, because that's not what I'm saying. But we have to be able to understand and acknowledge our role in what is happening and our complicity in what is happening, and say, hey, okay, I was not educated before on these subjects. I was not educated about this tribe. I was not educated about people in the Middle East. I was not educated about the history of this, but now I am. And that education has opened my eyes and has enlightened me and helped me to feel more connected with people, because I realized they're not terrorists. They're not barbarians. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not a barbarian. You're not this. You're not that. Wait, when I learn about all the people on the planet, and I'm not saying that everyone has to learn everything about all the people, but I'm saying when I learn about the things that I have been taught, and I learn that those things aren't correct, mm-hmm. and that I have bought into those things, I don't have to be hard on myself. I don't have to tell myself or tell other people, well, you're a bad person that you were indoctrinated into these beliefs, or that you didn't know about these things on purpose, or that these things are hidden from us. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't make us bad human beings. It is a good thing when we can learn the reality, as hard as it is sometimes and as painful as it feels, that the things that I've been involved in, the activities that I've been involved in, the education that I've been indoctrinated with, has been an agenda to suppress and oppress different peoples in the world, to uphold certain agendas. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be a part of that. And that to me is enlightenment. That to me is spirituality. That to me is becoming merging with each other. And that is what spirituality to me is all about. That's what these practices are all about. That's why we do yoga. That's why we take certain herbs. We take certain herbs so that our mind can be balanced and our body can be balanced and our immune system can be strong, so that we can actually have the strength and the backbone to say, hey, I'm not going to allow this in my own life, and I don't want this to perpetuate in other people's lives. It doesn't feel good to me, and I don't feel whole if I am not talking about real issues.
Right.
So, and if I am not doing something to help, whether it's sharing my voice, whether it's donating, whether it's signing petitions, whether for me, and I'm not saying everyone needs to get out on the streets and protest, but I sometimes need to do that to feel the energy of the collective, like we are making some movement and there is something happening, and it feeds that flame of humanity within me, to know that there is whether you want to say it or not is your choice, and what you believe is your choice, but there's good and evil here. This is a polarity planet. This is a polarity planet. There's people here that have agendas that don't care about people. They care about their pockets, and that's just very real. And there's nothing wrong with talking about that. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. And we know that because of how our climate is going. Our brothers and sisters in the Amazon forest are pleading with us. When the Amazon goes, even when half of the Amazon goes, this planet is done. You know what I mean? And the Amazon that's the lungs of the planet. The rainforest is the lungs of the planet. And we are continually cutting the rainforest down to perpetuate billionaires. Oil, to everything. So I'm not here to proselytize and say that everyone needs to be on a trip that is about this or this or this, but I am here to say that we are truly all connected. So what's happening with our brothers and sisters in South America, in the Middle East, and on the islands all over the world is happening to us. We are all affected by it, whether we want to believe it or not. And we can use these tools to block things out and tap out, or we can use these tools to actually give us a backbone and strength so that we have the strength to stand up for our brothers and sisters. Because what if all of these things were happening with us individually? We have to be able to, it takes strength to empathize. It really does. Because empathy, when we have empathy as human beings, we feel it's not selective. It's not like, well, I feel this with this person and this. It's like we feel pain. We feel sorrow. We feel grief. We feel happy. We feel excitement. We feel prayerful. We feel all these things. We feel deeply spiritual. But being aware of what's going on in the world, being aware of how there are systems in place to oppress certain people so that other people and very few people can benefit, is a very, very, in my opinion and in my experience, is a very spiritual act, that awareness. And what good are all these practices and all this jargon that we talk if we can't be engaged in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know that was
it was beautiful. There's so
you.
many potent seeds of wisdom in that. Really just receiving that is very beautifully offered. And wow. Well, I want to go back to what you said at the beginning of this conversation. And you said, that you believe that there's good in all people. And I want to bring that into this part of our talk, because talking about, good and evil too, and being even aware, even in the viewing of good and evil, that there's still good there. And the reason I want to bring that up is because the invitation is not necessarily to take a side, right? The invitation is to educate ourselves enough to be a vehicle for prayer, transformation, and healing, and to, in whatever way feels natural within us, utilize our resources, our platform, our voice, whatever we have to offer in a way that feels natural to us to catalyze change and to be a voice for the path of transformation and healing. And the reason I want to mention this element is because we can't play the same game that got us here in this mess in the beginning, right? So I believe that the path of awareness when it comes to walking the spiritual path of really seeing all that is happening is to rise above that same polarity that has us attacking one another and dividing one another. And so to see it all, to see what's happening, to investigate it, to ask the questions, to get the facts of whatever the situation is, the event that's taking place, is to educate yourself to the best of your ability, but then rise above the mental comprehension of what's going on and go into the place of the feeling body, the place of the intuition, the place of the empathy, to be able to be a presence within the world, the chaos that we're seeing, and to utilize that awareness for healing and for a vision forward of where we're going. And one of the things you mentioned is, some people, they say that they don't want to get caught up in these things that lower our vibration. But we can actually utilize this mess that we've made as a human species as the vehicle for our healing and transformation. Yes. But in order to do that, we can't get caught up in the same game. So we have to do it from this higher level that I'm mentioning, and this level of true compassion. And so being willing to expose and talk about the things that are hidden and the truths that are deeply, said to the behind and hidden behind what we can see at first glance. Being willing to talk about those things, but doing them from a place that causes more people to be inspired to do this process rather than attack one another. And I think that that's the key element of, at least in my approach of it, is when I ask these questions, when I talk about these hard things that some people, don't want to talk about, how can I do it from a place that fosters more unity and that fosters a more pathway for healing and the way forward? And I think that's the same also with the planet and with, how we address the issues with what we've done to our earth, right? And I don't see like humanitarian issues and natural resource protection as separate, because it's really, they're one and the same. And that's really where it comes back to also of like, not just seeing the facts of what's happening in a specific situation, but like what got us there, and really investigating this relationship of oppressor and oppressed, right? Like what is that? Go into it, understand it within your own being. Where do you hold those elements within your own being because of your conditioning, because of your ancestry, because of what you've been given? And if we talk about like what we can do and what feels right for us with action, we are making choices every day that are part of this action. Whether you go and support a chain coffee shop and you get your paper cup of your disposable coffee, or whether you vote with your dollar and you choose something that's more sustainable. Are you using fast made clothes that are like 5-use, 6-month use clothes, or are you investing in more sustainable fabrics that are better for the earth, that are more conscious, slow fashion? Things like this are examples of ways in which we can be awake and see what's really going on and tangibly every day choose to make choices that are towards this more beautiful version of where we want to see humanity go. And so I feel that the conversation of, the harder topics and the conversation of really seeing the pain and the suffering on, the levels that it's so pervasive within the human culture is like only one level, right? And then there's so many other levels of, how are we treating the earth that got us to be so greedy for the power and the money and the gold and the things that cause the wars and the fighting and the oil, right? And it's like going all the way back to the mother and letting our relationship with her as a collective, heal, and feeling the pain that's there within our relationship with the earth, and with each other, and with, God, because that's really like, we are God, right? We're all God embodied. And so if you're at war with your brother, you're at war with life, you're at war with God. And so even being able to see some of these other elements that are at play here, I believe to be very much part of the element of social activism, but from a different lens, you know. And I think that I wanted to share this because it's a little bit more the approach that I have taken. I haven't gone and picketed, you know, that hasn't been my path. But I wanted to mention this for listeners because there are many ways in which we can do this process. And there are a lot of different ways it can look and feel.
Definitely.
And I think that is important to just highlight because we have to do it. We can't not do it. There's no good that's going to come from just choosing to turn the other cheek and focus on our beautiful life and our yoga and our, you know, our retreats and all that. We have to be willing to do the work. It's really, you know, it's spiritual bypassing and it's in its fullest form to not be willing to see the truth, right? But we can do it in a lot of different ways, and we can do it in the way that feels most aligned for us, you know, in the expression. And if you're a musician or an artist or you have a creative voice, oftentimes, you know, creative expression is how we can channel like the deep grief, the deep separation that we feel. There's so many different ways, right, to really move that energy. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we move that energy, how we shift the energy. And I was watching something that you posted the other day, and I really loved it. I think you were talking about your newest song, and you were sharing this element of like moving into faith from the despair, and like moving from the despair and the grief into that place of prayer and faith, and letting that be the guiding element and the guiding light. And I just felt like this was so beautiful, and I really wanted to bring that into the conversation today, because that's why we need to show up. You know, we can't just show up and like pick a side. That doesn't help anyone, right?
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about that, and how also how your music also has been that for you? I would love to hear as well.
Thank you.
Taking a short break from today's episode to share about an incredible product line that we absolutely love. It's called Clarea, which means clarity and illumination. Clarea was created from divine inspiration and guidance that our coherence of body, mind, and soul are born from inner clarity. These creations are alchemized with the intention to bring forth health and well-being to the totality of your temple, to nourish a vital, thriving life. Holistically handcrafted with love and care for your well-being of mind, body, and soul. An offering that is life-giving, relevant, and aligned for all life and the future generations to come. Clarea is formulated from over 33 years of the founders' combined in-depth, dedicated study, research, application, and experience with holistic health, Ayurveda, herbalism, permaculture, detoxification methodology, and healing. Everything is 100% organic or wild-crafted, biodynamic, homegrown, vegan, botanical, pure, all ingredients of the purest, highest grade, sourced ethically and sustainably. Clarea is a full-circle sustainable project that aims to create as big as an impact for our Mother Earth and all life as possible. We are 100% aligned on every level with this beautiful company's mission, and for that reason, we felt called to share this incredible product line with you, our Four Visions family. 10% of all proceeds go directly to nonprofit organizations aimed at environmental regeneration and restorative efforts, specifically for water cleanup, protection and preservation of the waters, restoration of bee populations, protection of indigenous sacred lands, rights, and natural resources, reforestation, and endangered species and animal rights. Check out the link in the show notes and make sure to use the code FVFamily to snag some savings on your order. And now back to today's episode.
I feel that, you know, one of the anchor for me is education. And it doesn't mean education about one specific thing. For me, it could be specific things. For you, it could be other things, or someone else, it could be other things. we're one person. We're not going to be perfect with every single thing that's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on the planet. There's a lot of oppression. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of beauty. There's a lot of great things happening on the planet. There's a lot of all of that. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of, I think for us as human beings, the most important thing is to be in tune with our intuition, which the intuition is mind and heart together. And intuition is really, you're able to, is applied intelligence. That's what we say. Intuition is applied intelligence. And intelligence isn't just about the brain and about memorizing things and information. Intelligence is also the heart. Intelligence is also what is, coursing the blood through our veins and allowing us to breathe and be alive and grow the trees and the water flow and the earth and grow the food. There's a higher intelligence here at play. And for me, personally, with everything you were saying, I trust that intelligence. Whether you call it God, whether you call it Allah, whether you call it Jah, Yehovah, whatever you call it, whether you call it nature, whatever it is that you call it, Father Sky, Mother Earth, it's the same intelligence that is the reason that we're all here and that's beating our hearts and coursing this blood through our veins. And education, I think, is imperative. And I think education is interesting. I want to know, I feel compelled to know about my fellow brothers and sisters all around the world. I can't overwhelm myself with constant information all the time, but what I do is I intuitively flow with what feels compelling for me. So whatever that is for you, whether it's music, whether it's activism through music, whether it's herbalism, whether it's whatever it is that you do, whatever healing modalities, whether it's taxes, if you feel compelled to do that and help that way, that's wonderful. Whether it's being a mother, a father, whether it's being a friend, whether it's being a community member, whether it's helping the elderly, whether it doesn't matter what it is that we're doing in the world. When we're pivoting from a place of intuition, I think that is really our guiding force. And to speak to the, like choosing sides or choosing this or the politics and stuff, look, we have to understand that when we stand up for our brothers and sisters, it's not choosing sides. We're standing for humanity. We're standing for our brothers and sisters. Just like when I was standing up for my brother, when he was being made fun of, when he was being beat up, when he was being, when a lot of jokes were made with him and things were happening to him, I wasn't saying, I'm choosing my brother over you. My brother is getting hurt. I have to help him because I'm a human being and I have a heart and I have empathy and I'm a sensitive human being. I'm a compassionate human being, and my compassion compels me to want to help someone that's getting hurt. It's not because I'm choosing sides. We don't, especially with everything going on in the world right now, we don't have the luxury to choose sides. No one's sitting around going, what side should I choose? I mean, the majority of people are concerned about people being oppressed and being hurt and being obliterated and being stolen from and being exploited. Just like I know you feel that inside of yourself. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing. And you feel inspired too, inspired by the rich culture and the beauty of these people that you work with. So I think the more that we learn about not only ourselves, that's important too, and to acknowledge our past, if we have that luxury, if we have the luxury of knowing where we come from. But not only that, but acknowledging that everybody comes from somewhere and that we're all inherently good people, inherently good. It's only when we choose to adopt things and we get indoctrinated with certain education, because education could be brainwashing too. But eventually we have to wake up if we do want to heal. And not only do we have to wake up to our own situation, but we have to wake up to the situation of our brothers and sisters around the world. And that's what makes us feel whole. It feels wholesome. Whether you're protesting or not, there's, like you were saying, you know, there's so many ways to do good on this planet. There's so many things that I'm not aware of personally that I could be aware of. And there's things that I am aware of. And it doesn't make me feel bad that I'm not aware of everything, or it doesn't make me feel that I should be aware of every single thing. There's no way possible that one human could possibly be aware of every little thing going on. But when we choose to funnel our energy and focus our energy into something that is beneficial for humanity, whether it's the planet, and like you said, it's all connected, humanity, sharing truths of what's going on, we feel whole. We feel more wholesome. There's less depression, less anxiety, actually. Like when I go to sleep at night, I can actually sleep and feel good about what I'm doing on the planet. Do you know what I mean? And everybody has a different tone and a different energy of how they bring things. And that's very important. So the way that you talk about what you talk about is perfect. Is when you're moving with your intuition and what you feel compelled to do is perfect, and that's your tone. And the way that I do it is my tone, and everybody's tone and your tone is perfect, and we need all of that. We need all of that. But coming, I feel, from a place of genuine authenticity, I think is the key. So for me, it's like, you know, I don't know if I answered that question, but it's that simple to me. Feeling compelled, feeling compassion, and feeling empathy, and not tapping out. And the way to do that, and these healing modalities, again, that I'm sure a lot of you practice and enjoy and all these things, these are tools. That's not the end all. These healing modalities aren't the goal. They're tools that we use to become more human, more compassionate, more empathic, so that we do have the strength and the backbone, which is the grit. We need the backbone in order to actually stand up for each other and the planet, and have the strength to even want to do these things and care about these things. Because some people think it's just easier to tap out. Have you ever heard ignorance is bliss? I'm like, I do not feel that way. I'm like, I'm not that kind of a person. Like, if I know something's going on and if I'm not boycotting a major company that's causing pain to a people, and I'm perpetuating it by giving them more and more money, I'm like, I don't feel good about that when I learn about that. I'm like, once I learn about something, and if I don't kind of do what I need to do, and I'm one person, so it's not like me, one person by myself, is going to create the massive flip that's going to change everything. But when we all come together and we all learn and we all act, even in those very small ways, you know, we all just, then it creates momentum and a beautiful energy. And there's always, I feel, going to be pain here on this planet. Always. I don't think that this planet personally is meant to be a utopia for everybody. And but I do believe that we can change the trajectory of human rights, and that I do believe that there will be a day where everyone will be free here and have human rights and have their dignity and sovereignty. And I really do. I have that hope. And I have that faith, too. I believe that, whether it's in this lifetime or way further down the line. So when we're contributing to that, even in the smallest ways that we do, in the limited ways that we do, even those limited, small little ways that we do it, it really does create a ripple and a change.
Thank you so much. I'm holding that vision. I believe in humanity. I believe in humanity to heal and to remember and to find the way forward, where all life is sacred and all life is held in the place of where true reverence, where it should be. And holding that vision for our children too, and for the next generations to come, that they get to inherit a more beautiful world. a world with more peace and more beauty and more love and more compassion, and where all people have, quality of life and are able to live free and with their resources, their natural resources, and that we have access to sacred resources, clean water, and good, nourishing food, right? Not just any food, but true food. So this is the vision that is really, catalyzing us forward. And however we do choose to be a part of it, like you said, let it be authentic, right? And I am happy that you said that, because it's the core element. It's like, if we can follow that authenticity in our expression and let whatever choices or whatever actions we feel called to be part of feel right and authentic and true to us, then we're playing our part in the greater design of that, multi-leveled weaving of so many hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are all waking up and choosing love. Yes. And choosing light and choosing a better way forward, because there are many, many human beings on this planet who do want that. And that can be like the hope, that we really move towards and let ourselves be carried on the wings of that hope. Because it's also very easy to go into despair and to go into the pain and let ourselves be, just sweltering in the pain of it all. And that doesn't serve anyone either. And so this element of, transforming that despair into action, and whatever action, feels aligned for you, that's the full circle in this conversation, at least. And your recent single, Love Will Rule the Day, is such a beautiful story of that and testimony to that. I'd love to just have you share a little bit more about that journey, that hit, and the prayer behind it, and anything else with, your music too in general, of how you're bringing forth this prayer for life and for humanity through your music.
Thank you. I forgot about that piece when you asked before.
I know, so I just asked it again.
Love Will Rule the Day is a song that started out of an improvisation, where my band and I were playing a gig for a workshop, actually, at the Life Force Academy. And we were playing for like a group of people that they were doing meditation and exercises and stuff like that. So it was really cool, because the focus, we love playing workshops because the focus is not on us, is we can just purely be artists.
Yeah.
And so we started improvising, and those practices, they need certain tempos or certain, so the tempos and the tempo is the speed of a song or the speed of a rhythm. They either needed to slow down or be like this, steady, like what we call 4 on the floor, which is what that rhythm is. It's very 4 on the floor, like club style, or like EDM. Some people that listen to EDM, which I'm not too familiar with, but I know there's a lot of 4 on the floor, like or like house style music.
But to align with the breathwork practices.
Yes, to align with the practices. So that's why we did that. Yeah, that's why we did that, because it was aligning with the breathwork practice that we were assisting at that time. And these words just started streaming through. Life is very precious. Imagine all the ways when we really sit and we get still for a moment, whether we're sitting or not, and we acknowledge how precious life is, and imagining all the ways we start to imagine life is very precious. Imagine all the ways life is very precious, even in despair. Like these words just started streaming through. Even when we can't, as human beings, because we're very limited, right? Love will win the day. Still, love will rule the day. Love prevails. There is something greater at work here that we're not always aware of. And even when we are, it's a very limited awareness. So we're all here to learn, and we're all here to be human. And life is very precious. When I meditate on that, when I really reflect on that, I start to think about the earth, my brothers and sisters on the earth that are inhabiting this earth. Life is very precious, not just for some of us, but for all of us. And we all deserve to live, and we all deserve to feel safe, and we all deserve respect and dignity. So we have to reflect when we're choosing to do things that are destroying the planet, that are destroying our brothers and sisters. We have to really look at ourselves first. I have to look at myself and ask myself, Simrit, how am I contributing to that? How is my ignorance contributing to that? And when I get real with myself, and that comes through. I need to educate myself. I want to. I feel compelled. And so the music, Love Will Rule the Day, all of this started streaming through, and we put it out on Instagram, on a different platform. It was on the Life Force Academy platform, and it was like 30 seconds of that clip, and it went viral. It literally got millions of views and hundreds of thousands of likes, and then thousands and thousands of comments. It was like, whoa. And everyone was like, what is this song?
It's so good.
Thank you so much. And that is really what stoked the fire and inspired me to say, okay, I need to get in the studio, and we need to take that live recording of that rhythm and that instrumentation of me and the band, and we're going to keep that. We didn't change it. So what you hear in Love Will Rule the Day in that track is the live instrumentation from that very first time that we played it. And that started as an improv, and we created a song out of it as we were going. It was completely off the cuff. And then I went in and then I structured the lyrics to make it more of like the song with the verse and choruses. And that song is a song of truth and hope and faith, and just knowing that there is something greater than what's all going on here is a part of that. But there's something that is like the reason that we're all even here and learning and beating our hearts and coursing the blood through our veins. And that's what that song is inspired by. So, and humanity, humanity. And the music that I create is very much so coming from a place of empathy with humanity, empathy with our animal brothers and sisters, our animal family, and also the earth, Mother Earth, where we are so fortunate to inhabit. This is such a beautiful place, even with everything going on. The music really helps me to transcend, to take the energy of what's happening and that I feel inside, and it's like alchemy, I alchemize it. And it's not like I'm doing that in my head, like, okay, now I'm going to alchemize this energy. It's just what's happening. It's a natural process. And that energy comes out in the form of music. And what you said before, music unites all of us and is a universal language. And we don't need music in order to feel united, but because of the reality of how music is and the essence of music, we do unite through music. Everyone feels connected through music. And that's what we hope to achieve, even if there's always going to be music, but even without a song, we hope to achieve that just with our pure humanity in our hearts too. I've traveled a lot around this planet, and I mentioned this before. I've traveled to most places on this planet, and what I have found with all peoples is that in all of all of the planet that I've traveled, most humans are kind and good and want people to be happy. We all want the same thing. We want love. We want safety. We need our sustenance, food and water and air. We want to feel community. We want to feel closeness with other human beings, whether we're introverts or not. We need each other, and it's okay to say that. We need each other. We need community. And what I have found is mostly all people that I have met around this planet, everyone that I've met, I'm just saying mostly all people, because there are some people that are not concerned with that, but that's the few. That's the few that have been corrupted by miseducation and by brainwashing. That's just the few. The majority of people on this planet want everyone to feel safe. They just want to feel happy. They just want to feel healthy. They just want to eat clean food and have clean water. It's not that hard. And when we really reflect on that, then when we experience what's happening on the planet, it feels alarming, you know, because we're like, no, these people just want this. These people just want this too.
And how did we stray so far?
Yeah,
It should be so easy. We made such a mess.
Yeah, we don't have to be afraid of each other, you know. And the more that we travel and the more that we meet people from very different cultures, because even though we're all the same inherently, we do have different cultures and different ways of expressing things through those cultures. But when we see that everyone is inherently the same, like we're really the same, it helps us feel more connected in understanding of other people and not wanting to hurt other people. Does that make sense? We're really so connected in that way. So travel, I wish everyone could travel. And if not, I wish you could just watch. I wish for you to watch documentaries of other people and other cultures to see how even with the different practices, how much alike we really are. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been beautiful. And
Welcome.
all of this conversation has been so potent, and I'm really grateful that we're getting to share this with our community and our listeners. And I also just want to encourage everyone who's tuning in to have more of these conversations, because I think that, you know, we receive so much when we talk about these things together, and we haven't by any means, you know, covered all the bases in today's topic, right? And there's so many elements. So let's talk about it. Let's investigate. Let's take time and space in our lives to really understand these very, very complex things to the best of our ability, and let's be a part of this movement towards a better way. And so I really just want to thank you so much for bringing this forth today and sharing your heart and your medicine and your beauty with all of us, and for all the work that you are doing in the world. You're such a powerhouse. And wow, I mean, I already knew you were an incredible musician, but just to get to connect with you in this way, it's such a pleasure and an honor to hear, you know, a little bit about your wisdom and hear your voice through this conversation. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mariah. Thank you for having me, and also doing what you do and sharing what you shared as well, and hearing your perspective and being able to talk. Thank you for the platform to be able to talk about these things, for sure, and to bring the wisdom and healing that you're bringing through this platform. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, love. And many blessings to everyone. Thank you so much for Visions community for being here with us. On behalf of the Four Visions family, we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. We hope you have enjoyed this conversation and have gained seeds of wisdom that will nourish your spiritual path. If you have a moment, please leave us a review, as this helps us to reach more people. For more resources and information about the plant path, and for the highest quality spiritual tools and botanicals, please visit us at fourvisions.com. We are grateful for your support and look forward to continuing this journey with you all. Until next time.